I know what my objective is and has been for 20 years, and that is there is no route to peace and security in the Middle East in any lasting basis until the regime in Tehran is removed. That's why people were demonstrating in December.
Yeah, but none of these people have been demonstrating since the war started. Scott, you were, I would say, sniggering was probably a right way of describing it, as some of the things you were hearing there from Ambassador Bolton.
He's an entertaining guy.
Today on Piers Morgan Uncensored, Scott Horton threw down with someone I have no respect for, and that's of course the warmonger known as John Bolton. And of course the issue was the ongoing war in Iran. Now before we get to some of the highlights from this debate, Cenk, your 2 cents?
Yeah, by the way, those protests were fake. The Israeli press just reported that it was egged on by Mossad. So John Bolton has been trying to start every war Israel wants for the last couple of decades. That is true. And so, do you remember when Donald Trump was saying that John Bolton was a loser and no one should listen to him?
I sure do.
Well, it's funny because Donald Trump is now listening to John Bolton. More on that.
Now, Piers Morgan kept pressing John Bolton to explain how regime change in Iran could possibly be accomplished now that the regime has been decapitated, but the regime remains in place and there are no mass protests trying to oust the regime. In fact, if anything, the United States and Israel attacking Iran has unified the country, has actually led to more support for the regime. Because now the Iranian people see that, fighting back against this war on their country is about their survival. So with that in mind, eventually Bolton basically coughed up an answer, and that is to basically arm the Iranian civilians, but Morgan wasn't buying it. Take a look.
If you look at the situation inside Iran, I think the regime is, before the attacks, was at its weakest point since it took power in 1979. The population is overwhelmingly opposed to the regime. The ethnic groups are dissatisfied: the Kurds, the Baluchis, the Armenians, the Azeris. And inside Iran, the economy was a wreck. Even before the attack began. That's why people were demonstrating in December.
Yeah, but none of these people have been demonstrating since the war started. So again, I mean, well, I know
that's for sure.
Yeah, but I know the Israelis.
The regime murdered over 40,000 of them.
Right.
Now it's 40,000. I thought it was 35,000. Now it's 40,000. The other day Trump said it was 45,000. Okay, it's all made up, okay? I'm not saying that the regime didn't kill anybody. I'm saying that the numbers coming out of the pro-Israel crowd are made up. They're made up. And I'm willing to believe it if you provide me some evidence, but they haven't provided any evidence. I'm just supposed to just believe that? Just trust me, bro. No, I don't believe it. And by the way, I gotta go to the next video, Cenk, because Scott Horton responds to that. Take a look.
I think it's so crucial that he continues and the war party on the media and in the government continue to push this lie, this completely preposterous hoax, Piers, that the Iranian government massacred 40,000 people in January to put down that insurrection. First of all, we already know, Donald Trump admitted, now that we're living in the future here, Donald Trump admitted last week or 2 weeks ago that Israel armed those Kurdish groups. Those weren't peaceful protesters. There were peaceful protests, but the fighting was not the massacre of peaceful protests. The fighting was fighting against Kurdish communists who were sacking police stations and burning mosques and trying to overthrow the government there. And then just think about that casualty count, 40,000. That's like the Battle of Gettysburg. The worst, well, I don't know about all of them, but in Ukraine, the worst massacre of the Holocaust was at Babin Yar in September of 1941, where the German Nazis corralled 30,000 Jews and massacred them and dumped them in a ravine. We're to believe that the Ayatollah pulled that off, something like that, maybe 10,000 more than that in January without carpet bombing his own city?
That's such a great point. I mean, there has been carpet bombing taking place, previously by the United States and Israel at the start of this war against Iran. And you don't have tens of thousands of people killed in Iran?
No, we have about 3,500 killed in Iran after we bombed the living crap out of them, including their girls' schools. But somehow they killed 10 times more than that.
Come on.
And by the way, we have no pictures of it. We have no video of it. We have no satellites. We have no smartphones. We have no evidence at all. Now, when Israel murdered 73,000 people in Gaza. We had overwhelming proof. We have the names of every person who's been killed. In fact, the number is much higher because of the people buried on the rubble. But since we don't have their names, it's not in the official count. That's how well documented it is, and the IDF has agreed to. But the entire time, we were told, you can't trust those numbers. You can't believe those numbers, even though there was overwhelming evidence, right? Now they make up a number. They just pull it out of their ass. And all of media goes, yes, it's 30,000. Oh, we changed it this week to 40? Yes, it's 40,000. Why is everyone in media saying something that has never been proven, never close to proven, that is obviously Israeli propaganda, and yet they're all repeating it without a shred of evidence?
But guys, look, there are good people who have heard me say similar things like this, and they hate the IRGC, so they think I'm like providing cover for. I don't care. Look, I live in America, okay? I have no love or strong hatred for the IRGC. I'm looking at the facts, and everything that I say on this show, I want to back it up with receipts. So I'm not gonna simply regurgitate death toll numbers that, by the way, change from one week to the next based on what propagandists, well-known propagandists are saying in the media. Okay, finally, let's get to Horton revealing some pretty relevant comments that John Bolton had made during an AIPAC meeting almost 20 years ago. Take a look.
We have John Bolton on a recorded conference call with AIPAC in 2007, saying that through all the sanctions and all the bullying, this is in the W. Bush administration, they were trying to get Iran to withdraw from the non-proliferation treaty and kick the inspectors out of the country. As he said then, that would put us in a better position to launch the war. He wants full regime change. And then you hear his answer. He has no answer to how to do this. Oh, we'll arm some Kurdish communists from PJAK.
Yeah, it wasn't the most convincing way that this all gets resolved, I must say.
Yeah, and then he says, oh, we'll arm the Balukis. He means Jundala, the bin Ladenite head-chopping, suicide-bombing lunatics. That's who he means by the Baluchi dissenters, which America and Israel backed against Iran in the W. Bush and Obama administrations.
Both the United States and Israel have a history of funding groups that they later refer to as terror groups. Like, I just find it really interesting. I mean, how many how many ISIS commanders were later discovered to be Mossad agents? No, but I'm being serious. There's reporting on that.
There is reporting on it, but
okay, we armed Al-Qaeda terrorists in Syria, guys. Benjamin Netanyahu facilitated the funding of Hamas. I mean, it goes on and on and on. So please spare me the tears about, oh, Islamic terrorism. That Islamic terrorism is partly funded and supported and propped up by the very people who are whining about it today.
Yeah, I mean, look at what Scott Horton said. Again, it's on tape, so it's not like it's disputed. Back in 2007, 18 years ago, Bolton is saying, let's make sure the Iranians are not in the nuclear proliferation treaty. So meaning we want them to have the ability to have a nuke so we could use it as an excuse to attack them. They were never concerned about the nukes. Not when Netanyahu started talking about it 40 years ago, not 20 years ago, not today. The only reason why they care about their so-called nuclear program is to have an excuse to attack Iran, and not for Israel to attack Iran. They can attack Iran anytime they want. No, to trick us into attacking Iran. Oh, what if America got hit with a non-existent nuke that they've never had? They've said they won't have. They have no weapon to deliver, etc. So now, guys, two more things that are super important here. We talked earlier in the show about, look, a lot of supporters of Israel genuinely think everything is anti-Semitism and that the Iranians are dangerous and are gonna have a nuke and are gonna kill them all, etc. Because they are also the victims of propaganda. But the people at the top, they know they're the ones that are purposely lying. So John Bolton is a perfect example of that. So he knows that every single thing you saw in that first clip of his is a lie. That there wasn't 40,000 protesters killed, that toppling the Iranian regime is not at all easy, that the war is not going to go well. He was neck deep in Iraq. He knows exactly what went wrong, and he knows that that's exactly what's going to happen in Iran. He's not so stupid that he thinks, oh no, it's a completely different dynamic and this time it'll be easy. No, he's lying to you on purpose. And why? Well, it's funny because that call was an AIPAC call.
Yes, it was.
So many of the people you see on television actually work for Israel. And they never clarify that. They never tell you that they work for Israel, right? So that's part and parcel of the lie. And finally, the most important part is his very presence on air to begin with. Because once the Israel First pundits and politicians all go out in unison, that means they have gotten their talking point from their Israeli handler. That means Israel has made a decision. So when you see John Bolton, Lindsey Graham, Mark Thiessen on Fox News, Bill Ackman on CNBC, it's all of these different figures all come out at the same time and go, no, we got to go back in. Iran's really dangerous. They're killing protesters. So we have to murder them all first. And it's, oh, America's, this is going to be easy. It's only going to take a couple more weeks. No, we got to go back in. That means, yes, the propaganda has re-begun because Israel is demanding that America go back into the war and serve Israel's interests.
Yeah.
And no one ever clarifies on television for you guys, these people actually work for Israel. This is Israeli propaganda. They're trying to manipulate you into this war so your kids will die instead of IDF soldiers, and that you spend trillions of dollars instead of Israel spending it.
That's right.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.